Tonight's episode was sponsored by Mad World. Check them out at www.itsworldmadness.com. Check out our Tavern X Mad World hoodie on sale now. Check it out on their website, guys. You don't want to miss out. Get them while supplies last. As always, we are sponsored by StreamYard. Check them out if you want to do any kind of online streaming. We greatly appreciate that. As always, our special guest tonight is Chris Burns. He has 20 years of experience as a marketing consultant. He has developed a diverse skill set through roles including entrepreneurship, authorship, podcasting, and consulting. His approach to helping businesses stand out in the crowd is to make things simple, fun, and easy. Chris believes in the power of differentiation and the importance of strategy and execution for a small to medium sized businesses. Let's learn from his expertise and experiences. Chris, how are you tonight, sir? Believe you're still muted, buddy.
Oh, what do you know? The guy who says he's been on a podcast before starts out the interview with his microphone on mute. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. So let's hit you with that first question. What inspired you to specialize in social media strategy, and how did you get started in that field?
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad you asked that. That takes me back to my roots a little bit. It's interesting because the first time I learned what marketing was, I was in high school, and I'm a small town guy from Wisconsin, small town like 90,000 people, and I needed to take an elective my senior year, and talked to my counselor and like, yeah, you could do this marketing class. I'm like, what the hell is marketing? And she said, well, you get to work in the class store, you can join DECA, you get to go to New York City for a class trip. I was like, I don't know what it is, but sign me up for that. That sounds pretty cool. And next thing you know, I take a real strong interest to DECA and sales. And I decide, yeah, that's really what I want to study in college. So I got a degree in marketing, worked in and out of a family business for a couple of years. And then every job I had from college on really revolved around marketing. And where marketing really became institutionalized for me was probably about 7 years ago. I started working for a marketing agency that specialized in social media. And at the time, I was starting my first business. So I had been entrepreneurial in the past, but nothing big, nothing serious. And that is where I learned so much more strategy, more tactics. And I was working with clients and small businesses, and I was able to practice the things that I was learning and I was preaching on my own business. So I could talk to my clients and say, hey, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. And then it didn't take more than about 4.5 years there where clients said, hey, we want to hire you directly. And I decided, I really need to go off my own and be a marketing consultant. I really wanted to work for myself. And that kind of led me into an opportunity where I got to teach social media marketing at a local university. And things have just kind of been exploding ever since.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm glad to hear that, man. So we can get it straight. You basically, from the beginning of the beginning for you, when you first entered adulthood, you were just thrown right into marketing and said, you know what? This is for me. I like this.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thrown into growing up in a family business. It's kind of thrown into the customer service and sales thing, probably the age of 13 or 12. So it's pretty natural for me to see the entrepreneurial way, see the business way. And
Yeah.
I always kind of knew that I would have a path if I wanted it, going down that route. And once I really understood business, I realized that marketing is the opportunity to demonstrate who you are and what you do. And then if you combine that with the power of sales, you can turn your products and your services into revenue. And so marketing alone is great, sales alone is great, but when you combine the two, you can be very powerful. And that's really what inspired me to really do that. But I will say also, a big part of what I love to do is marketing with a purpose. And I grew up having the opportunity to be around youth and youth sports. And always loved the idea of being able to help people. Or teach people, coach people, specifically kids. And so, now that I've had an opportunity to do that in business, it is so much more fun when you can do things with a purpose and with a passion.
Very true. Very true. Let me see here. So, next question I've got for you: where do people slash businesses go wrong on social media, and what are some of the common mistakes that you see being made?
Oh boy, how much time do you have for this one?
I figured that was going to be one.
Okay, so I give you a couple. And the first thing that I will say, and I probably get caught saying this a lot on podcasts, is I have the opportunity to do quite a bit of public speaking as it relates to marketing. And it's not uncommon. I'll be in a room with 100 people, I'll be on stage, and I'll say, okay, quick show of hands, who here has a strategy? And I am not kidding. I mean, I would be shocked if 10 people in the room, 10% had a strategy. Now, I will then follow up and say, okay, real talk. How many of you have it in document format? So, Word, Google Docs, whatever, and two or three people always put their hand down. So, that leads me into my next segment, which is okay, if you don't have a strategy, how do you measure success? How do you quantify success? How do you, what is it that you're doing, even, I mean, just in general, what is it that you're doing on social media? And people will say, oh, Chris, well, I've got one in my head, or, I've got a vision. No, no, you don't. That's bullshit. And so, what I try to help people understand is, how do you zoom out a year and say that was successful or that wasn't successful? How do you say, I know what my audience wants? I know what's working. I know what's not working, because you don't. And I'll go as far as to say this is, even if you do have a loose strategy, you're probably using what I would call very arbitrary numbers. So, for example, if I said to you, "Hey, what's a goal you might have for your social media this year?" and you'd say, "Okay, yeah, I would love to get 10% more follower growth. I want 10% more website traffic." Okay, well, that seems nice and reasonable, but where did you get that number? And the answer is typically, well, I just seemed
Thought it
reasonable.
sounded good.
Yeah, it sounded good. Well, that's bullshit, because you didn't look at your metrics, your analytics, to say, this is where I'm at, and this is where I'd like to be. And then based off some benchmarks in the industry, which is this and that, I'm guessing that, and it's more guess than anything,
Hmm.
based on my budget and my posting frequency, I can achieve X this year. So I would say that strategy, and or lack thereof, and the go as far as to say lack of an intelligent, robust strategy is a big reason why people will fail. And I'm going to take it one step further. And I was on a podcast earlier today, and I said something that really resonated with the host. And that is, so often I will hear marketers or small businesses say, yeah, you know what, Chris, I tried the TikTok thing. I tried the Facebook ads thing and it didn't work. Okay, that's fair. What is it? Quantify that for me. What is it that didn't work? Well, I posted 2 TikToks and then I didn't really get anything out of it. I spent $25 on a Facebook ad for 2 days and it didn't work. Well, that is the equivalent of dipping your toe in the pool. And if
Yup.
that's what you're doing, you should expect zero results, because anything you do in marketing, you have to jump all the way in the pool. You have to jump in the deep end,
Solid.
because you can try something and yes, you may say, "Oh, well, maybe there's some opportunity here." But one ad, $20, $50 isn't going to move the needle much. You need consistency over time to see any kind of result.
Yes.
And dipping your toe in the pool will not give you the full sense of this works or this doesn't work.
Very true. Landon, what you got there, buddy?
Brian Briggs from Facebook asked, as someone who's trying to help small businesses with their social media, how do you recommend helping them come into the century with their views of social media?
What's up, Brian? Thanks for the question. Okay, that's an interesting one. So, helping small businesses. I'm going to give you a couple different answers, Brian. Number one, most small businesses, they don't have the bandwidth or the time to do all the things they want to do. They don't have the bandwidth or the time to maybe making videos or running ads. So I would say most importantly is get them on a strategy. Get them on a very simple one-page plan that they can follow, and make it as simple as possible. I say that because a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses struggle because we just make it too difficult. We make it too complicated. I've seen businesses that have a 20-page strategy, and there's no reason they don't look at it because just the thought of it stresses them out. And so, very simple, very easy plan. I would rather that business be on two platforms and do a really good job of social media on two platforms rather than doing a crappy job of managing five social media platforms. So, plan, simplify. And if we're talking about helping them come into the 21st century, the big thing for me there would be content. And so, right now, you can post organically, which just basically means you're posting photos or basic posts to your newsfeed. But the organic reach right now is so low. And essentially, what that means is you're lucky if 6% of your followers even see your content. Now, that's not an opinion, that is an actual fact. So, I'm not saying you shouldn't post to your Facebook profile, but what I'm saying is maybe you post less to it and focus more on things that are going to generate real results. And what I mean by that are vertical video, specifically Reels for Instagram and Facebook, TikTok, YouTube Shorts are absolutely killing it right now. And that is where I would move my time. I would spend not more time, but I would spend maybe an hour less a week on my Facebook organic posts, on my Instagram posts, and I would start trying some new things because ultimately, if you're just doing the same shit over and over and over, you can't expect different results. So just slowly add in some new tactics into their strategy, and I think that they will see some really massive improvement. Great question, too.
So I have a question too. What would be your advice on making YouTube shorts? Like, is there a science behind it, or is it just kind of do what you can?
I think if you're beginning and maybe the video feel is a little overwhelming and stressful for you, I would say do what you can because something, anything is better than nothing. So just focus on taking action. That is a big tip that I give a lot of my clients. The second thing is you can do this a couple different ways. I have right here next to my computer a little stand that I put my phone on, and I can literally put my phone right on that in my office here, and I can record me talking to my phone about something. And then I can upload that to multiple platforms. So long as it's under 60 seconds, it will work for every platform. So, what I'll do is I'll create that video, I'll upload it to Twitter, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram Reels, and all of a sudden I can copy and paste that caption. And in a matter of 2 to 3 minutes, I now have a video for multiple platforms. However, again, zooming out, if you're going to be creating video, you want to make sure you check the box in a couple of areas, meaning you want to be either A, entertaining, which you could be fun, you could be funny. You want to be educational, if at all possible, because if you're educational, you're adding value to people's news feeds. So it's thought leadership content, teaching people what you know. And those are a couple of really key things. I will also go as far as to share my thoughts. So, again, being a thought leader, I'll take a screenshot from an article that's talking about now, by the way, YouTube is getting into podcasts. So I'll take that screenshot, I'll put myself in a green screen, which you can do in TikTok and Reels, and I will film a 60-second video of me talking about what's happening and how you can take advantage of that opportunity. And so, literally, in a matter of a couple of minutes, boom, you've got yourself a video. But I think what you need to do if you're going to dive in the deep end, as I talked about before, is make yourself just a content strategy, meaning we're talking about like a half a page strategy where I'm going to post 1 or 2 videos a week. So we're not getting crazy. We're not asking you for a big time commitment. And I'm going to post about these 2 or 3 subjects. And they should be the subjects that you are the most passionate and knowledgeable about. So when people see you, they're like, whoa, this guy or this gal really knows what they're talking about. And as a byproduct, they watch 10, 15 of these videos. They're going to say, what's the link to his or her website? Because I want to work with that person.
Dig it. I dig it, man. I want to take a moment and just welcome everybody that has joined us over on Reality. We've got a ton of people that just jumped in. Luffy, welcome. Kylie, welcome. Everybody else, we really appreciate you listening, and we appreciate everybody's comments that's going on there. If you haven't already, drop a follow. We'd love to have you as part of our tavern family. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate you. So let's move on to this. One of our next questions here. Uh, what are some of the key components to a successful social media strategy, and how do you go about developing it?
Key components to a strategy. Great question. So, the first thing that I do before I even build a strategy is I start with an audit. And most people think that, well, the first thing you do is build a strategy, but no. And so I have to say that as kind of a preface because I feel like I would be remiss. I'd be leading you the wrong way. What I mean by that, and I go back to that first point I made is if you audit your current, let's say Google Analytics, your Facebook Insights, whatever tool you're using to measure data and traffic, you can look at that and you can then make an intelligent guesstimation of where you think you'll be with your new plan. So if your new plan says, I'm going to post 3 times a week on these 3 platforms, I'm going to have this budget, I'm going to have this posting frequency, you can then use that to create a more intelligent plan. Number two, I would say that a lot of people set their goals way too high and they also have too many goals. I think for the average small business owner, and I'm talking about the guy or gal who owns a business that, 6 figures or less, they have too many goals and their goals are too lofty.
Yep.
I will tell you that I've worked with multi-million-dollar companies that are one of the largest in their space. And they have a team of 3 or 4 people, and they cannot handle 5 goals. That is just too much because if you literally try to be everything to everyone, you will be nobody. And
Yeah.
so you have to understand who is my audience and how do I reach them. So let's start with the goals, 2 or 3, and they're smart. They're smart goals, meaning they're goals that are quantifiable, they're goals that have a time frame attached to them, and they're goals that you feel confident you can achieve. So there's that. I would also make sure that in that strategy, you have a value proposition or a mission statement. And so what I mean by that is if you're a solopreneur like me and you sell maybe a marketing service, you need to have a positioning statement. And a positioning statement is an elevator pitch, for lack of better words, that differentiates you from your competition.
Yes.
So, and I'm going to use myself as a guinea pig here. So, there are literally tens of thousands of marketing consultants like me. Now, you might be saying, "Well, Chris, why would you say that? That you're totally diluting what you do." Well, I like to think, hopefully, that after listening to this podcast, you'll think that I'm different and want to work with me. But one of the things that I tell people is that um, marketers do a couple things. They make things complicated. They make things very expensive. They don't promise results, and they
Yep.
don't keep their timelines.
Exactly.
So I'm the opposite. This is my pitch. I'm Chris. I'm a digital marketing consultant, and my goal is to make digital marketing so easy it's fun again. So easy you're going to be excited to manage your social media. And when you're having fun, it's going to be because you're generating results. So again, we if you zoom out and you're like, yeah, you know what? I do have that 20-page strategy. That is really complicated. This is kind of a burden. I do probably make it more difficult. And it's not really as hard as we make it sometimes. And so that's how I make it different. And then I also tell people that um, because there's a lot of noise, meaning there's a lot of competition in my space,
Yep.
I differentiate and I help my clients differentiate so that they can rise above the noise. So that's how I do what I do. How do you do what you do? Can you come up with a statement that can help you differentiate? Because I'll say this, if you are the same as everybody else, you're average.
Yes.
If you're better than everyone else, you're just good. But if you're different, you're best. So good, better, best. I spin that by saying good is average, better is good, different is best. And
Absolutely.
that again, I everything that I do kind of bleeds into that. And so it's smart goals, simplifying things, and differentiating yourself. And if you're not different, you're just a commodity. And we all know what commodities are. You don't want to be a commodity.
Nope. What you got, Landon?
So two things our chat's coming up with right now. One asked, Is this your dream job or what was your dream job? And the other one is if you could give some tips for time management with a business doing custom commissions.
Yeah. So dream job, I would say as an entrepreneur, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I mean that is probably the one downfall to entrepreneurship is you have a friend that comes to you and says, "Hey, do you want to invest in this company? Hey, do you want to help me start this?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do this, let's do that." But I think ultimately you learn as you grow older that you can only do so much. So you have to stick to what you're passionate about. And the thing that I am most passionate about is marketing. So I would say I'm probably living my best life working in marketing.
Love that.
In terms of time management, I am not the world's foremost expert. I've learned to be better at it for a couple of reasons and a couple of ways. Probably because I failed a lot along the way, and so I really live and die by my calendar. But I would say that if you are looking for time management, I'm going to go back to telling a story that comes up with my friends every summer. And I like to play golf with my friends. The summer here in Wisconsin is very short, so they're very sacred to us. And they'll ask me all the time, "Oh, Chris, is this the summer we're going to play more golf?" And I respond with a sad, "No, I'm sorry, I'm busy working with my clients." And they have a couple of them have a lot of flexibility. And I realized years ago that it'll never happen unless I prioritize that. So you have to zoom out and you have to say, what is the priority for me? And if it is your commission business, your sales business, your entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you have to make time, which means that you have to sacrifice something in your day. Now, my I don't watch a lot of Netflix, I don't watch a lot of TV, I don't do a lot of fantasy football. I am family and business.
Yes,
And
sir.
so I also know that my golf game during the day conflicts with all those things. And so if that's what I want to do, I'm going to have to put some extra hours in at night, in the morning. And I make time. I wake up at 6 a.m. I get my workout in every day. Might not be very long, but I get it in because it's a priority to me. And so you have to establish that priority. And more importantly, you have to block time. And that's what I do. And that's what I teach my clients to do is social media is something that always falls by the wayside. So you can start with 15-minute chunks of time. And I don't care who you are, I don't care how busy you are, how successful you might be, you can make this work. You can make 15-minute chunks, two or three, four throughout the week. And then you'll find that's not enough because you're right, it's not. Then you'll start making 30-minute chunks of time. But I would just encourage you to just rip the band aid right off. Block 2 chunks to 1 hour chunks on your calendar every week and don't mess with it. Make that the time to do the thing that's most important in your job. And for so many of us entrepreneurs, that is social media or strategy or following up on emails that we get buried on so often. And again, if it's a priority, you will find a way to make time for it because it's going to make you better.
I completely agree. That's something that I have said to people in the past. Not sure if you did any, research on our podcast, prior to this, but in the early days, there was three of us. We were a trifecta. That was a kind of our thing, and our logo was a Cerberus because it's a three-headed dog. That was us. And the third person just kind of fell off. He's a dad. He's about to have his third kid. And me and Landon are both fathers as well with our own children and our own lives. But the thing he kept coming back to us with was that I just don't have enough time. I just don't have enough time. I'm like, if you want it bad enough, you'll make time. Like, I get it. I got kids too. I work a steady
Yeah.
job too. But that's why we have a structured Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, 10 p.m. Kids in bed. At
Hmm.
9 o'clock, we start prep work, get the show ready, do the show at 10 o'clock. We've blocked those times every week, no matter what we've got going on. It's scheduled, and we have a calendar that we got everything revolved around. And I just think some people just don't want certain aspects bad enough to be willing to sit down and block off time. And I think that's the way
100%.
you gotta want it.
100%.
Thanks
That
for the
that's
follow,
just it.
Quincy.
I'll
Go
say
ahead.
this, Brandon, too, is I think if, like you said, if it's that important, you're gonna make time for it. So the last thing I'll add to that is Some people will say, I don't want my kids to see me with my laptop out every night. I actually, on the contrary, I want my kids to see me working, not a lot, but sometimes, because
Exactly.
I want my kids to understand that there's no easy button in life. If you want to be successful, and y- I'm not trying to get a Ferrari here, but if you want to have nice things in life, you need to work hard. And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong a couple times a week or a few times a month, whatever you allow it to be, to get that extra time in. And I think it's good because I don't want my kids to be lazy. I want them to have a very strong drive and work ethic. And so that's the way I see it. And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but I hope that that reigns true in years to come.
I totally agree. Let me see. Let's move on here. What is the importance of a personal brand, and how can individuals use social media to establish and promote their personal brand?
Oh, I love this question, Brandon. I really do. So I've been on social media since 2004, and I wish that starting then I think I was a senior in college when Facebook came out. I wish I would have had the intuition to create a personal brand, not so much a logo, but think about building a following.
Yes.
And obviously I didn't. When I worked for an agency years ago, I started posting very consistently on LinkedIn. I built a small following. And I came back to that in the fall when I started teaching social media at a local university. And I made a goal for myself to post once a day for a whole year. And I'm about a little more than a quarter of a way through that. And it's been amazing. I've doubled my following on LinkedIn. I've migrated slowly to YouTube. Since then, I've had a podcast launch, and I've had absolute tremendous opportunity come from it. I'm not the one, I'm not chasing leads anymore. I'm not DMing and spamming people. But as a byproduct, because of all the content and thought leadership I'm creating, people are coming to me and asking me questions, asking me what I charge. And it is amazing how the tables turn when you have an audience. Now, if you're someone who's maybe never going to be an entrepreneur and you're listening to this and you're wondering, well, how would this benefit me? I'm just a guy or a gal in sales. I would say this benefits you tremendously because when you have an audience and you go to change jobs, you get to take that audience with you. You
Yes.
own that audience in perpetuity so long as that platform is still around. So why? Again, why is that important? Well, if I'm a salesperson and I'm on a board for a nonprofit and I say, "Hey, I want to help my nonprofit raise money for this event," I can go out to LinkedIn or any platform and I can blast that message out and say, "Hey, this is really important to me. Would you help me support this mission?" And guess what? You're going to get at least a couple people that are
Right.
interested in doing that. I would also say that in looking at the big picture with personal brand, if you look at the brands that you are connected with, and this is just a rhetorical question, so think about this. Is there any brand that you feel like you're really emotionally or physically connected to?
I don't know that I have one.
The answer is no. You
Yeah,
would know. You would know.
I feel like
Now,
I would know, right?
yeah. Now, people will say, "Well, Chris, I like this or I like that." Like, I'm not connected to McDonald's. I might be connected to my local coffee shop because I know the guy who owns it. I
Yeah.
might be connected to the local spa because I know the woman who owns it, and I go there because I like the people. I like the service I get. I'm
Yeah.
connected to people, not
Yes.
brands. So when you have a personal brand, you have the just a disproportionate advantage. And that is the hardest part for people to create one is because nobody wants to talk about themselves. Nobody wants to get in front of their phone or their camera and create videos and talk about who we are, what we do, what we know. They just would rather either use social media passively, as most people do, and not post because they're worried about what people might say and might think. But on the flip side, if you can just throw that through the window and say, I don't give a shit what people say, I don't give a shit what people think, and your mission is just to share the good with the
Yes.
world. So I know about marketing. So that's what I'm going to show. That's what I'm going to share. Yeah, I talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, a little bit about leadership and business, but ultimately I can add value. and I can build a following. People are going to want to follow me and subscribe to my newsletter, I hope. And so that is ultimately how you do it. But a personal brand is so important because I'll tell you what, if I go out and I try to tell people my marketing services, people don't care. They're connected with me first as a thought leader. And they're
Yes.
like, oh, by the way, this Chris guy also has a marketing business. I guess if I have a need for marketing in the future, maybe I'll call him. But it starts with Chris, the marketing guy. Oh, Chris, the marketing guy who owns Lux Level Media. Oh, Chris, who has this consulting service. We need that. We should probably hire him for strategy. And so you have to kind of think about that process. And it is just so valuable to have your brand, but also have your personal brand. And your personal brand is always what people see first,
Yes.
generally.
Absolutely. That I think it's wonderful that you talk about building that personal brand and that personal relationship with people, because that's really what we're trying to do here at the tavern. It's the whole point of it is to create this safe space where people know they can come hang out whenever they're feeling exhausted and just they've worked all day, they're tired, they've gone to school all day, whatever it is that they've had to do all day. And they're like, I don't want to go out to the bar, man. I don't. I get it. You guys are great. I want to hang out with you guys, but I really don't want to leave my house. So then you and your buddies say, well, I don't know who's going to be on the tavern tonight. You want to listen to that, and we'll hang out in the chat. So you're already in your bed. You got a little snacky snack. You're comfortable, and you get to get some information on a topic you may not even have known you wanted to listen to tonight, because it's different every night. So it's always going to be something, and maybe one night it's that night where you're just like, yo, that Chris guy, I've been needing to up my game in my marketing section.
Yeah.
And so now you and your buddies that logged in heard all this news, and they were able to reach out and they got some value from us, because the whole thing that we're trying to do is highlight someone else's dream and provide value to someone somewhere. And hopefully, that's what we're doing tonight. And I mean, it seems like Senshi over here in reality is really taking to your advice. He's really enjoying this because he does his, commission work, and he is. I mean, I'm looking over and seeing all the stuff. He's like, it's very true. I hate being on camera. He's, yeah, sorry, Senshi, she. I apologize. And oh, Mr. Hayward, love you, buddy. Thanks for showing up, man. Um, let's move on to that next question here. What are some common mistakes that people make when trying to build their personal brand on social media, and how can these mistakes be avoided?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the big thing, and I don't know if it's a mistake because I really truly believe that taking any action is better than no action. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs start a personal brand and pivot, meaning I remember seeing one who was a realtor and then she got into something else, just someone I was following on Instagram. I've seen people on LinkedIn do the same thing, pivot from one industry to another, and that's okay. No one's going to fault you for that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is not taking action. That's probably the biggest mistake people make. Is you're going to end up like me and say, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I worked for an agency I had 5 years, 7 years ago. Oh, well, and I do that. I don't like to publicly talk about it, but I feel if I can use myself as the guinea pig and throw myself under the bus, maybe people will relate with that. The second thing is I see people do two things that I would just not recommend doing is not being authentic, meaning try to be someone you're not, try to be
Yes.
funny when you're not. Um, and ultimately, again, people will see through that. You'd be surprised if you're new to this game and you're new to personal branding. People will know in maybe a matter of a month or a couple months time that you are not who you say you are and you're not an expert in that space. So choose something that you're really passionate about. You don't have to be the world's foremost expert, but if you're passionate and you say things like, so I've got a friend who started a marketing podcast and he says, and he's actually very knowledgeable, but he says, I'm on this journey learning with you. So he's already telling you, look, I don't have all the answers, but I'm learning with you. And so you kind of feel like, okay, well, if he says something that's maybe not something I agree with, you're not going to attack him or,
Yeah.
throw him under the bus. And then the last thing they'll say of mistakes is don't try to copy other people's work. I've seen some really good things. And then the next day or 2 days later, I'll see someone with pretty much the same exact message. And I was like, yeah, it looks like you may have stole that or borrowed that. And again, you'll be surprised. I've seen it happen multiple times where individuals will call out other people for stealing their content. Um, I don't think it happens a lot, but having good intentions.
Yeah.
Um, also limiting yourself to one platform is probably a mistake. I know you need to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
if you're really stressed out by the whole concept, take one platform. And the safest platform where you're probably going to get the least amount of trolls and hate is LinkedIn.
Okay.
Misunderstood platform.
Can I, yes. Can I stop you there? Because
Yeah,
until we went to Podfest, we had never met a person that used LinkedIn.
it's my favorite.
Even now, I created a LinkedIn and I have it. I don't really use it.
Okay.
Landon's
Let's
trying to
talk
talk
after this.
it. Yeah, because something about it just feels like, what does this offer me that my Facebook is not already doing?
Hmm.
And it just feels like, I don't know if it's because I'm about to be 32 in a couple of days, right? So I'm on the younger generation of the podcasters. A lot of podcasters
Okay,
that I know are a
good.
little bit older than me, and they're all about the LinkedIn. And I'm like, I don't know a single person in my daily life that uses LinkedIn. So I was like, is it really that important? And everyone at Podfest was like, you got to get on LinkedIn. So yeah, we definitely need to talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about it right now for a hot minute.
Okay.
I will say, if you're old, so I'm 41. I'm an old guy by most standards.
Well, not too much older than me.
When I got on LinkedIn, probably back in 2006, it was basically a job board. It was a place where you put a resume, and which was your profile, and it had far less information than it has now. And people would go there to apply for jobs, or they'd put the information up hoping a recruiter would find them. And that was kind of the gist of it. You could post, you could definitely connect with people, but it was not Facebook. And now it's obviously owned by Microsoft. It
Yeah.
is very much like Facebook, but
That's,
it has
she
a lot.
actually said I didn't know about LinkedIn as a platform.
Yeah,
And they never heard of it.
it has a lot more capabilities than you could imagine. It also knows a lot more about you than Facebook. So most of us don't give Facebook all the data. We don't give them our address, our phone number, our job title, our industry, our revenue, our household income. Like we just don't do that.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn knows a lot of that information. They know your industry, your job title, and because of that, they have a pretty good idea of what you make. And by the way, 75% of the users on LinkedIn make $75,000 or more.
Oh
So
wow.
if you as a podcast host and as an entrepreneur said, "Hey, we want to get on more big level guests.
Yes.
We want to put our show out there so that media folks, like maybe it's BuzzFeed, maybe it's Entrepreneur or Inc.com, we want to get positioned in front of them so they write about us. We also maybe want to get these big level guests on. We want to get some sponsors." Well, that's the place to do it because all those people who you're targeting are active on LinkedIn.
Oh,
It's a ton of mid management, upper management, and C suite level people. Oh, by the way, highly educated. And because of that, that is a huge podcast listening demographic.
yeah.
Huge. They also put a lot of time into reading, which people who read tend to listen to podcasts.
Oh,
And I think, I mean, for all the reasons I mentioned, it is an awesome platform. There's also a lot of creators. I don't like to use the word influencers because there's definitely some of them,
yeah.
but I think collaborations are key. So if you're looking to collaborate, I can't say that, collaborate with other users, podcasters, you will find a lot of them there. They're just kind of now starting to migrate over there. And so, again, personal brand, business brand, you can do all the things you're doing on Facebook just as good, if not better.
Okay.
And one of the things, this is the key takeaway, and the last thing I'll say about it is organic reach is low on these platforms. There's no doubt. But
Yes.
one of the things that LinkedIn can do that Facebook cannot is that if you and I are connected, Brandon, and you go onto LinkedIn right now
Yeah.
and you see that I just liked 5 posts, you will likely see my activity. I'll say, oh, Chris liked this post, Chris liked that post. If you and I both do that for the Tavern podcast, we
Uh-huh.
just 2x the reach. And if Landon did that, we just 3x the reach of that post because
Oh,
all of our networks would then see that activity. You can't
okay.
get that anywhere else. So your chance of virality outside of TikTok and
Yeah.
Reels, the only way you have any of that is on LinkedIn.
I thank you. I guess I need to double down on LinkedIn because I
And
I love how you explained that last part there.
Yeah. By the way, I have a LinkedIn coaching service I'm launching in the next couple of days if you're interested.
Check that out. I love it. I love it. Let me see here. Go through a couple of the questions that I've got here. We are approaching our time limit. Actually, since we are at that last 15 minutes, Landon, do you want to swing back in and drop the bombshell for me?
Uh-oh.
We always ask a famous question at the end of the show, and I came up with this a while ago, and it's a great question. What is one question that you wish we would have asked you, and how would you have answered that?
What is one? Oh man, I don't even know. What
It
do
gets
most
me
people
all the
say?
time too. Anything. They say a lot of
We,
different
we
things.
have had things down to what's my favorite flavor of ice cream. That's how simple it's gotten.
Yeah.
I guess I'd probably have to go that route. I'm surprised you didn't ask me about what I like to do in my spare time.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Let's get personal. Let's get to know you, man. What do you
You have
do in your
spare
spare time?
time?
Oh,
Yeah, do
no,
you
not
have spare
really.
time?
No, that's a trick question. I don't have. What if you don't have any spare time?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll go that route. I honestly, I have no idea. I feel like you guys probably asked them all the best questions. If I were to give you questions, those would be questions I would have you ask me. So, um, that's another thing that's interesting. My wife always tells me I need to take more time for myself, and I need to do things for myself. So, I'm going to give everyone a quick tip here before I say what I like to do. I think it's really important to take some time to take care of yourself. And so, one of the things that I like to do is I like to work out in the morning. And so it does a couple things for me. One is that I feel like if I take care of myself, I can bring my best self to work every day, even though I primarily work from my home.
yeah,
And if I can bring my best self to work, I can bring my best self home. Meaning, if I am by working out and eating better, I am not Mr. Forgetful. I tell you that. I used to be Mr. Forgetful all the time. And now my brain is sharper. I am more clear. I have less brain fog. And because I'm eating better and sleeping better, I prioritize sleep. I have more energy. And so when I have a better mindset, a better attitude, I've got more energy, my mind is clear, I can be a better husband, I can be a better father, I can be a better friend, I can be a better leader for my clients. And so that to me is really important is so self-care for me is sleep, it's eating right, it's waking up early to work out, maybe getting a massage occasionally, getting out somewhere, maybe it's playing golf or going for a walk just to clear my mind. So, doing some of those things I enjoy doing because it gives me a chance to hit the reset button and just refresh. That's important. So, being outside, enjoying the sunlight, getting some exercise is really important. And I see Marcus saying self care. I really enjoy doing it, but I also think it has a lot of benefits. And I also think that there are a lot of people that they don't take care of themselves. I
yeah.
don't necessarily think that binge watching Netflix every night is self care. Great. Should you do it? Yeah, you should definitely do it every once in a while.
Once in a while.
However, that is not self care. So do what for you helps you decompress.
If I can add just a little something to that, and
Do
I
it.
have tried to pitch this to everyone I know, especially people who are like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I
I
don't know
don't
what
either.
that should be. Find a hobby, find a passion, find something that you enjoy. And no, that is not watching Netflix every night. No, that is not sleeping. Because I have had people tell me, oh, my hobby is that I watch Netflix, or my hobby is I like to take naps. Like, that's not, that is depression. That is
That's right.
not. Find something and try different things. There's nothing saying you can't try 50 different things before you find the one that you're like, bro, I would love to do this every day. Because
Hmm.
I'm about to be 32 years old and we just started this podcast last year and I love it. This is the hobby that I didn't know I needed in my life. And when you find that hobby, you're going to be like, "Oh man, that's good stuff." And you're going to realize you have something to put effort and energy into in a constructive way that then makes you feel more fulfilled in life. And I think if people can
Yeah.
find that one hobby, they'll actually be a lot happier in their life.
That's cool. I used to listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, and he would say things like, say you're self-admittedly a big nerd, you're an introvert, you just don't have a lot of hobbies. Well, maybe you're into Star Wars. Hey, I am too. I think Star Wars is cool.
right?
Start a Star Wars podcast.
There you
And
go.
I'm telling you what, you'd be shocked how many people would want to advertise on that podcast.
Yep.
And especially if you're like a walking Star Wars encyclopedia. Maybe you're into puzzles and you want to start a puzzle podcast or you want to start a puzzle business. There are just so many things you could do. I'm trying to encourage my kids to see the entrepreneurial light. If
Yes.
they want to go that path, great. If they don't, that's fine too. I certainly don't blame them. But I always said, hey, do you want to start a YouTube channel? Like, do you want to start this business? Do you want to understand how money works? I mean, I'll pay for it. Like, I'll
Right.
help you. I'll teach you. And so that would be a hobby, is you get to have a business that you're doing with one of your loved ones.
Yes.
So they're traveling. I mean, the list goes on and on. They're To me, golf is a hobby. Working out's a hobby. Um, you could quantify a doing yard work, a bit of
Yeah.
a hobby and a chore at the same time. Just find something. You're so spot on though. It's about being passionate about something. We all have things we're passionate about. I don't care if it's crafting. I know people that are into scrapbooking. Do your thing.
Yes.
It doesn't have
Absolutely.
to be a business either, but I mean, I prefer to turn things into
I
businesses.
completely agree. And there is a phrase that if you've listened to any of my podcasts or if anyone who has spoken to me in person knows, my favorite phrase ever is, I want to turn a passion into a profession. And that is my go to line because that is what we're trying to do at the tavern. We want to turn a passion into a
Yeah.
profession.
One thing to know, though, first is that it's okay for it to be a hobby first. So,
Yes.
for example, I have a leadership podcast where we just launched called Hustle Nation Podcast, and we just signed our first client to do business with training at their facility. And until that check comes, it's a hobby, and that's the way I see
Exactly.
it. And we have big goals, we have big aspirations, but
Yes.
until you can transform that into a living, breathing business where you're creating revenue and
Yeah.
continual revenue, it's a hobby, and that's okay. That is how a lot of things start. But once you start making money, then the pressure's on. This shit counts,
That's
because
it.
you got to keep the ball rolling. And if it's never going to make money, that's okay. Like, your wife's not going to, be harping on you as much, if that's the way it's going to be in perpetuity. But
Yeah.
hobbies are good too.
Exactly. And the biggest thing that I would say for someone who does want to take a hobby and try to become a profession one day, show up. Just show up. You show up and you do it and you're dedicated to it. You're gonna figure it out. You're gonna meet someone who's gonna give you some information that's gonna be not even life changing, but could put you in the right direction to make your hobby go in the direction you want it to. But if a lot of people get bogged down on the I've been doing this for 3 months and I ain't making no money yet. That's fine because it's your hobby. But you still got to show up tomorrow and try again.
Yeah.
And
But
if you
three
love
months I mean, that's
exactly,
nothing. You might as
exactly,
well be doing it for 3 days.
Uh,
exactly. You got to
I,
show up,
I
man.
I've been doing this for about 3 months, getting all the questions together and trying to approach guests and get them on our show. And it's a lot of work sometimes, and sometimes I get really overwhelmed with it, but I love it. I have so much fun trying to do all this stuff, and I fly to the seat uh, from the seat of my pants every day, and trying to learn exactly what I need to be doing and how I should be approaching things. And I've been watching videos and I've been talking to people, especially guests that have been on our show, has helped us the most. So
So
uh,
our show is not 3 months old. Let me preference that because it's
yes.
kind of what Landon was sounded like he was
Oh,
saying.
sorry.
He has in the last basically since January, there have been leaps and bounds in the structure of how we do our show and the amount of effort that we put into making the show better from what it was. And he's made tremendous growth, as my producer and co-host, to just making the quality of the show better. And he's learned how to, streamline the things that he needs to do post show
Mhm.
or pre-show to just make his life easier. And I'm proud of you. If that's what you wanted to hear tonight, Landon, you are doing great, man. I'm proud of you.
I
There you
like
go.
it too. Nice work, Landon. It's a
Self
cool
love.
show. This is a good show.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. So let me get to where it's at here. We're gonna go ahead and do our closing out. Um, Mr. Burns, do you have any closing statement that you would like to give to our audience? Just the last piece of information to take away tonight.
Oh, I could go a lot of different ways, but I will say, as an entrepreneur, I've been through all the ups and downs that you've been through. And a couple of things come to mind with this closing statement is one, we just talked about 3 months. 3 months is nothing. Really, it's 3 years. You got to stick things out for the long haul. And I think if you really are committed and you're willing to play the long game, you will see success. But just know that there is no overnight success. You're not going to generate 1 million followers in a year. I mean, it's possible, but very unlikely. And so that's number one. And then I'll go back to my other tip about self care. I think that's really important because this journey of entrepreneurship is stressful. It's difficult at times. There's lots of ups and downs, and sometimes it's even a lonely place because if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't get it, right? You don't know the challenges, you don't know what someone's goals are, and so you got to find a way to surround yourself with like-minded people. But also, if you can bring your best self to work every day, even if you're working in your basement or your home office like I am, it just makes the day so much different. And I'll tell you what, you're going to feel like you own space in your mental domain and you won't be renting space there anymore. So take care of yourself and bring your best attitude and play the long game. And I guarantee you will be successful. And if you want some help, you know where to find me.
Amen. Uh, is there anything that you want to shout out real quick? 'Cause, we're going to have a lot of your information in the post show. Is there anything you want to shout out, right now?
Yeah, yeah. If you like the message that I brought today, you like my energy, we've got a podcast called Hustle Nation Podcast where you can hear a lot of me and my business partner talking about hustle, leadership, business, marketing, things like that. And then I've got a marketing business called Lux Level Media, do a lot of digital marketing. And I'm launching on my personal website, which is iamchrisburns.com, some done for you and done with you services where teach you how to use LinkedIn, optimize your profile. I've got a master class and some other cool things launching. So would love to help anybody out. In fact, I do have a Calendly link on my website where you can book free time with me. So I'm giving away a free audit if you're interested. Just kind of want to know, hey, what does my marketing look like? What do you think? Happy to give you my unbiased opinion, no strings attached.
You heard the man. You know where the links are. Go find him, check him out. Mr. Burns, it has been fantastic to have you on the show, sir. Thank you for all of your knowledge, your wisdom, most importantly, your time. Thank you for giving us that hour of your time tonight to just help educate people and maybe inspire some people. I know our fans over in reality loved you. We hit 5,982 likes over there. Way to go, guys. I appreciate you. Senshi, we will shoot you some links so you can reach out. Reality is a little different than where we're at, but we'll make sure you get those links, man.
Thank you
Also,
So
so much.
if you know anybody who would like to be, that you think would be a fit for our podcast, we would love for you to, give them our email or, give us their email and we'll reach out. You know,
Happy
definitely,
to. I'll definitely make you a couple names.
I
awesome,
appreciate it. Well, as always, everybody, we love you. Stay safe. Thanks for joining our tavern family. I know we had a lot of new followers join us tonight, so we really appreciate that. Um, guys, thanks for stopping by the tavern.